In my view, central to wisdom is being in touch with the deliciousness of life, being able to appreciate what we have here. And often we're not. Stuff happens. We get hooked. We feel angry about something or annoyed or depressed. And in those moments, life does not feel very delicious. And sometimes it's not even something dramatic. It's just in the background, but a certain life doesn't feel very rich, doesn't feel very meaningful. Maybe it feels as a source of anxiety or a source of regret. But all of these things get in the way of experiencing the deliciousness of life. Now, some of you have heard me say before, I don't mean by delicious that we just go around in bliss all the time. I think part of the richness of life is its range of flavors, that it comes in so many different flavors, and we can enjoy those in different ways. But often we're not. And that lack of deliciousness, that lack of appreciating what's here, that's what I think of as suffering. And that can be a dramatic term, but it doesn't always have to show up as dramatic. It can show up sometimes as just a general lack of satisfaction. And that's a kind of suffering. So how do we shift that? And one of the ways that I know that works for me is what I call expand and include. And that's what I want to share about today. So by expand and include, I mean, can we just grant that we're having the experience we're having right now, and it's okay? So we, in a sense, expand to include whatever's there. We don't resist it. We don't fight against it. We don't judge it as the wrong thing to be having or bad. We just expand and include it. If you think about suffering, its root is always that things shouldn't be this way. If you look, anytime you suffer, you really look, in some way, we're holding it that things shouldn't be this way. So expand and include is the opposite of that. It's things are the way they are, and we can just grant them that. Now, it's a little interesting in that you have to keep expanding and including till you get to a place where you are at peace. So maybe you're mad at somebody did something at work, and you're angry about it, and you feel disrespected by them, and you're thinking about it all weekend. It's bothering you and keeps gnawing at you. So how do you expand and include there? Well, you first acknowledge that's what's present. Boy, I'm angry and it's gnawing at me. Like, okay, like first you just grant that's what's present. Don't fight it. Don't deny it. Don't judge it. Just, okay, that's what's present. And then you might see that there's another layer around it, which is, I don't want it to be that way. So can you expand and include, I don't want it to be that way. It's like, okay, so, and I don't want it to be that way. Again, you just let that be the experience. I don't want it to be that way. Don't fight it. Don't judge it. And then it might be something around that, which is, if I were wiser, I wouldn't think this. Okay, so that's the next thought that's there. If I were wiser, I wouldn't think this. And you grant that space to be there. What I find as I do that is the experience changes. That actually just letting myself have these experiences without fighting them, without judging them, without judging myself for having them, that they shift. And they actually start to, partly the charge just goes away, my suffering falls away, and sometimes a pathway reveals itself. Like, why don't I just talk to the guy on Monday? Oh, yeah, I could do that. And it's a path that I couldn't see before because I was so jammed in the anger and the resisting the anger. It was as though I were completely stuck. And so by expanding and including, I am getting unstuck. It's becoming unstuck by allowing what's there to be there, as opposed to fighting it. And if you play with this, what you'll see is the stuckness comes from the opposition. That's what keeps the stuff in place. When you stop opposing, it's there, and then something else is revealed. It's as though given space to be there, it doesn't actually just hang out. Something else is revealed. And then the question is, can you expand and include that? Years ago, I was learning to lead events, do public speaking. And I remember before I would get on the stage, my heart would be beating like crazy and my palms would be super sweaty. And I thought at the time, I have no hope of doing this. There's no way I can lead these things given what's going on with me. And then I'd go out and lead them, and it turned out they worked out pretty well. And I ended up, and I didn't talk about it in this way at the time, but just expanding and including that a racing heartbeat and sweaty palms was just what showed up before I walked on stage, and had no more meaning than that. And I had space for them to be there. And what was interesting is that went away. So you just grant what's there and grant it as it is without adding meaning. I'm angry. Okay. Grant that the anger is there. And then the next, there might be a thought. I'm angry because he disrespected me. Okay. Grant that thought. Now you don't have to, I'm not saying you believe that to be true. It's rather that you're giving it the space to be there. And in that, you might begin to see whether it's true or not. Sometimes I find, no matter how much I attempt to expand and include, I'm still stuck. And in those moments, I say, all right, it's time to do a little more focused inquiry. And for that, I turn to Byron Katie's practice of the work and go really look to see what's the underlying belief and whether it's true or not. And that works for me consistently. But most of the time, I find I don't need to go that far, at least not anymore. If I simply see if I can grant space for what's there to be there, expand and include it, it actually puts me back in touch with the deliciousness of life. So that's what I wanted to share today. I hope you find it's helpful. Thanks for listening. Bye.